Thanks again. So, architecture of an artificial neural network, which means it consists of totally 3 layers: input layer, hidden layer, and output layer. We are going to discuss that one with every classes, so you do not need to worry about its architecture, but you need to think about its weights and what is meant by a neuron, node, and stuff. And the consent process of using an ANN, actually, the consent process of ANN, which means what kind of concept that can be, we can accommodate the ANN, and the application of ANN, where the ANN can be applied. So usually in the first class, we are discussing the basic stuff related to the ANN and stuff. So you do not need to worry. Later on, we will discuss for the deep learning. If we have the time, we will discuss about the implementation of a deep learning as well for the image recognition stuff and so on. So these are stuff that, which I plan to discuss in today. So first of all, how many of you have heard about artificial neural network? I think it's a kind of a new term. You have already heard about if you are considering the artificial intelligence, the machine learning is a subset of an artificial intelligence, and within that machine learning, there are several supervised algorithms available, which means the decision tree, support vector machine, and likewise. So likewise, there's one of the important algorithms known as ANN. Not only with a supervised machine learning, you can use this with time series analysis. There's a specific neural network called LSTM. And from the first class, I'm telling all the stuff like a brief introduction, but you do not need to worry. Anyhow, if you need another important thing, if you need the recording as well, I'm recording every session. So if you need the recording as well, I will upload it to a Google Drive and share it with you. But there's an issue while we are uploading that one into the LMS since they have the limited capacity. So I will share you the drive if you want. I will share you the drive by uploading the recordings as well. So artificial neural network, we are mainly using this neural network with a classification problem, and for the clustering also some purposes we can use. The clustering means divide it into groups. Classification means, for an example, the profitability customers. For an example, if we are taking in telecommunication industry, high profitability customers, low profitability customers, average profitability customers, we can made up that classification by using the neural network. Don't worry, I will explain how we can implement a model. And if you have time, we will go with an PyQt4 library called PyQt4 along with Python to implement the interfaces as well to develop a neural network. If you have time, we will go with that one as well. And another important thing, the time series analysis. For an example, the weather prediction. Weather prediction means how much of rain that can be possible within a particular 2 days or 3 days, and the stock prediction. So there are different kinds of variants, different types of neural network available. You have to accommodate that one by incorporating. So we will go for the definition initially, and after that there are several available for the neural network. So artificial neural network is an information processing paradigm that is inspired by the way biological nervous system. So you already know the biological nervous system, how you can the memory will pass the get process of an information. For an example, 2 and 2, and you are with the help of the memory, memory and the brain, you are going to execute that process. That you have grabbed the data, whether it can be with an grab that data, and you are going to process that. So how you can ensure that the data can be processed while you are getting an output? You are response to with an mouth or something like that, by writing or something like that. You are response to a particular question. So the message can be passed to the brain with the help of the nervous system. So likewise, they have, the earlier scientists have realized, in a computer also, we can, the computer, and by incorporating several algorithms also, we can implement a neural network, which means similar to the, derived from the biological nervous system, such as the brain process information. So it consists of large number of highly interconnected neurons. So how the brain process information, it's interconnected with one another. With the help of that one, it's going to get processed. So likewise here, also going to get executed. So otherwise, another important thing, the artificial, not only the artificial neural network, we call it as an ANN, we can call it as artificial neural system, parallel distributed processing system. So you can search it from the research papers and grab it from the research papers. Connectionist systems. So there are several names that can be given. Hope everyone get my point. So this is the format, how they have introduced this artificial neural network by the idea that they have grabbed from the biological nervous system, they have initiated the implementation of an artificial neural network. So what is meant by a neuron? You already know how, you already heard about neuron, but you don't know the structure. Since you, if you are from the biological background, you already know the neuron and what are the stuff, the dendrite cell body and the axon and the, axon and the other stuff. So you already know the soma, what is meant by soma and stuff. But in here, you don't know actually. So from the, as I already mentioned, they have developed this artificial neural network. They have come up with this concept called artificial neural network derived from the biological nervous system. So we will compare each and every component of a biological nervous system to an artificial neural network. With the help of that one, with the help of the particular comparison, you will grab more how they have come up with an idea called artificial neural network. A biological neuron is the basic unit of a human brain. Not only the human brain, you already know the neuron can be facilitated in several places as well. So biological neuron is the basic unit of a human brain, which is specially designed to transmit information to other nerve cells. So first of all, if you are grabbing an information, for an example, 2,2, and how you have to process that one, you have to pass that one through several nerves and until it going to get processed, nerve, cell, and muscle, etc. So this is a kind of an two diagrams I grabbed it from the internet. So the nucleus, soma cell, dendrites, and the axon terminals. So otherwise, this will be another structure. So this is similar to the ANN structure. So initially, I will explain this ANN structure. Anyhow, later on, we are going to discuss in detail as well. So here, so the dendrite is the actual part going to grab the details inside your human body, which means whatever the values that you are going to pass, it will be passed through this dendrite. So the cell body will going to grab all the information. For example, you have passed the X1, X2 through these dendrites, and it's going to get collected together with the help of this cell body. And then here we have this myelin sheet, or otherwise we can call it as an axon. Axon is the person who is going to transmit that data. Just like a cable through which neurons send the information. Think about it's like a cable. It's going to send some information. Then we have the axon terminal. You have to grab the output. Whatever you have passed, you have to grab that output. So that can be done by this axon terminal. So don't get confused. I'm not going to ask what is meant by a neuron related to the biological stuff, and I'm not going to ask like that. But keep remember how they have come up with an idea derived from the biological neuron. So that's important for you. So a neuron takes some inputs through dendrites, as we have already mentioned. So with the help of the dendrites, actually we call it as a receivers. According to the neural network concept, we call it as a receivers. Through dendrites, processes them and provides the output through the axons. So axons are the persons who is going to deliver the output. So what is a neuron? So in order to, before getting up the neuron, get to know about the neuron. So this will be the entire structure. So you do not need to, I'm not going to ask like specify the architecture of a biological neuron likewise. I can understand the real burden behind it. So I'm not going to ask like that, but keep remember what are the stuff. The comparison is too much important, but I'm not going to ask each and every component, but I will specify one table for the comparison. With the help of that one, you can grab more. So external signal received by the dendrites. Keep remember on these 4 steps. You do not need to remember this architecture, but keep remember on these 4 steps. External signal received by the dendrites. External signal processed into the neuron cell body. We can call it as a soma. So later on we will discuss that one. And then process signal converted into an output signal and transmitted through the axon. Axon is the actual guy who is going to give you the output. Output signal received by the dendrites of the next neuron through the synapse. So if in case of a next neuron has been arrived, next data has been arrived, that can be facilitated with the connection of this synapse. Synapse is the person who is going to make the connection. So if the combination of input electrical signals is above certain threshold, so you get confused how it get triggered. So even any of the data can be triggered and going to get executed. It's not like that case. There's a threshold. Threshold means there's a limitation value. So for an example, they open up the reservoir after the reservoir receiving some level of water. Up to the level of water, they are not going to open up the reservoir gates, but up to a certain point only, they are going to open it. So likewise, If the combination of the input electric signal is above a certain threshold, up to a certain value, it results in firing or activation of the neuron. We call it as a triggering of a neuron. Then only it's going to get processed. So for an example, if a particular person slap on your face, you have noticed that you will feel some burden actually. Then only you will realize that in a minimal seconds that you will realize that one he has so if a particular person slapped on or otherwise you are fell down or faint or something like that, you have noticed. So after within a minimum milliseconds of amount of time, so there's a triggering. There's a trigger has been made. Then only you will get to know about that one. So the same principle of firing or activation is used in the artificial neuron as well. So according to the different scenarios, for an example, for the stock prediction or a classification or clustering or otherwise the image recognition or text recognition, there are several activation functions available. So you have to use the respective activation function to incorporate, to trigger that neuron. So that's one also another important thing. So artificial neural networks is inspired by this arrangement of the biological neurons in our brains and its basic unit of called a neuron. We can call it as a perceptron. So keep remember on this stuff because most of the time we are not using this term neuron, but there's a concept, there's a specific type of neural network called multi-layer perceptron. So keep remember on this one. We can call this one as a neuron, or sometimes we can call it as a perceptron, but most of the time we are using this term as perceptron. Keep remember on this stuff. So what is mean by the function of the dendrite according to the human biological nervous system? What is the use case of using this dendrite? So there are tree-like branches. So we already see it from the picture. It's like tree-like branches responsible for receiving the information, receiving the data or information from other neurons. Another important thing, there's not a single neuron. There are multiple neurons available. For an example, I have made a picture of a typical neuron. So it will be connected to another neuron. So they are like tree branches. So the dendrites will be look like tree branches for receiving the information from the other neurons to connect it, to make connection. And we can say that they are like ears of the neuron. So we can easily think about, you can easily remember that one, ears of a neuron. What you have heard, you are going to process that one. So with the help of the ear only, you are going to hear that one. So that's why we call it as a dendrites. That's the process belongs to this dendrites. The soma, as I already mentioned, the cell body, it's going to combine all this. It sums all the incoming signals to generate the input. So it's going to combine all the inputs that you are going to receive. And then the axon structure, when the sum reaches a threshold value, so that's too much important. Even though if you are passing any of the data up to a certain limitation, if you receive the data up to a certain limitation only, it's going to get triggered and pass that information to going to get processed. So that's too much important, that done by this axon structure. When sum reaches the threshold value, neuron fires and the signal travels down the axon to other neurons. That's too much important. Then the synapses. So synapses is kind of an, we can call it as, it's a connection between the axon and the other neuron dendrites. So with the help of the synapses, you are going to make available of the connection. So the point of interconnection of one neuron with other neurons and the amount signal transmitted depend upon the synaptic weights. So even though if you are passing this one, think about this structure, even though if you are passing this, you can pass, think like you are going to pass the data through this link, but there's a weight associated with it. It's like an, you can think about a bridge scenario. They have definitely mentioned more than this kilo weight of an heavy vehicle can't be go through this particular pathway. So likewise, there are several weightages that can be given for each and every link. What kind of data, how much of data that can be passed, or how priority of data that can be passed. That can be automatically generated. The weights can be automatically generated in a simple neural network, but there's a possibility that you can assign up to yourself. So later on, we will discuss that one within several algorithms. So you do not need to worry. So up to this point, if anyone have any issues? Up to this point, if anyone have any issues?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So mainly, anyhow, we are going to discuss about the application as well. So for your easy understanding, I have made this picture available here. What can neural network do? So there are, as I already mentioned, there are different kinds of neural network that can be accommodated and implemented for different purposes. For an example, to translate the text, mainly we are using the RNN. It's actually a deep neural network concept called recurrent neural network. For the translating the text, we are using a network called recurrent neural network. And another important thing, I forgot to mention from the beginning. If I tell something that can be expected in your final examination, that's a kind of an int. If I am telling like that, you can have a note on it. Definitely, there are out of 5, 4 questions will be there from your final examination. Keep remember on that one as well. I'm telling this one to every batches and like this. So if I tell like you can expect a question like this from your examination, definitely there will be a question. Out of 5, there will be 4 questions definitely will be there. So keep remember on that one as well. Yeah, okay. So what can neural network can do for the translation of the text and for the mainly for the text recognition, we are using the RNN, recurrent neural network. So don't get confused. Anyhow, we are going to discuss about the different types of neural network and what are the processes and what are the difference between each and every type later on at the latter part of the lecture series. And then identify the phases. Specifically, we are using the CNN. If a basic algorithm, if we are taking the state-of-art algorithm, we are using the support vector machine for the image recognition and stuff. But in here, according to the neural network concept, we are using the CNN, convolutional neural network. And to recognize the speech, again, the RNN, recurrent neural network. And to read the handwritten text, we are using the CNN because it actually belongs to the image processing and stuff, read the handwritten text and stuff. And the chatbot, mainly the chatbot has been developed on the basis of most of the time, rather than using the state-of-art machine learning algorithms like decision tree and random forest and stuff. Mainly they are going with an ANN because they have developed derived from the human biological brain. So most of the time they will go for this one to develop the chatbots and stuff. Usually they are going with a neural network rather than going with other algorithms. Hope everyone get my point. And along with this one, there are time series prediction, the stock market prediction, and as well as weather prediction, yield prediction, price prediction, and there are so I think you already know what is mean by the time series prediction. There are some continuous values. There are no discrete values. The specific range of values. We cannot divide that one into class 1, class 2, class 3, likewise. So for an example, the customer will be anyhow, we are going to discuss that one as well later on during the implementation. There are 3 types of machine learning available: supervised, unsupervised, and the reinforcement learning. So during that time, I will explain that one clearly, what is meant by the binary classification problem and a multi-class classification problem and stuff. So likewise, according to the purpose, there are different types of neural network can be developed. And another important thing, the LSTM, long short-term memory, we can call it as LSTM. That can be mainly used for the time series analysis, time series prediction. We are using the LSTM. Otherwise, within the machine learning concept, we have to use the regressor. So don't get confused. For knowledge, I'm telling this one. So this will be the basic structure. This will be the basic architecture of a neural network. So compared to from the biological neural network system. So this is how it can be relied. It can be relied, or they have derived these concepts and developed the neural network based on this one. Dendrites from the biological neural network represent the inputs in an artificial neural network. So dendrites, here are the inputs, X1, X2, Xn. So for an example, if you are taking a telecommunication customer, so their age, not their name is not useful, their age and how much of bandwidth they have used, how much of complaints that they have made for a particular, against a particular service provider, and how many number of positive feedbacks, negative feedbacks, what are the packages that they have installed, how long they are maintaining the bill, and how long they are made up the calls, IDD calls and stuff. Those are kind of inputs. Each and every input will be considered as passed as a dendrite. Dendrites from biological neuron represent the inputs in an artificial neural network. And the cell nucleus, which means the soma, going to represent the nodes combined together, the nodes. And the synapse represents the weights. I have mentioned for each input, there should be some weight. we can call it as a feature importance actually. These are some of the features, the inputs, and feature importance. The W1, W2, W3 are feature importance, represent the weights, and the axon represent the output. So the output, what will be the output? Well, what you are going to predict from this neural network. For example, you will get an output as 1 or 0, binary values, 1 or 0. 1 means the customer will definitely leave from the organization. 0 means the customer will rely in the organization. Which means the W1, W2, W3 gives the strength of the input. Strength of the input. How much of what is the priority, or how much of weight, or how much of importance that each and every attribute. So here, along with this one, we have a concept called activation functions. So we will discuss that one later. What are the activations functions available, the sigmoid and stuff. We will discuss that one later. So relationship between the between biological neural network and an artificial neural network will be look like this. For the soma, we have the node. Considering the ANN, we have the node, and the dendrites that can be considered as an input, and the synapse, weight or interconnection. So how much of weight that it's going to get accommodated. So each and every attribute, and then the axon, that will be the output of an output compared to an ANN. A neural network that consists of large number of artificial neurons, so which are termed units arranged in a sequence of layers. How we are going to accommodate this neuron in a brain that can be accommodated randomly according to the human structure, that can be accommodated randomly. There's no shape, but in here, each and every neuron falls under 3 layers. Falls under 3 layers. Basically 3 layers. We will discuss that one later. How many hidden layers? How we can identify the number of hidden layers for a particular data set. There's a simple trick available. I will let you know while we will go for the implementation. So neural network that consists of large number of artificial neurons, we already discussed. Artificial neural networks primarily consist of 3 layers. These are the 3 layers. First one, the input layer. Second one, the hidden layer. Don't get confused with these 2 hidden layers. We will discuss how many hidden layers that can be facilitated or incorporated according to the data set. It actually depends. So we will discuss that one later. And then the third one, the output layer, input layer, hidden layer, and output layer. So what are the 3 layers that are available for in a typical neural network? Simple, typical and a simple neural network: input layer, hidden layer, and an output layer. So if I tell you to develop a simple neural network, it consists of 3 layers: input layer, hidden layer, and an output layer. So everyone get my point. So here, as the name suggests, input means you are going to pass the input. Inputs in several different formats provided by the programmer, which may be that can be a text or an text or a numerical value or a decimal points or a continuous value. That's up to you. According to the data set, it's preferred. And then the hidden layer presents in between the input layer and an output layer. So it's act like a mediator. It performs all the calculations. So whatever the calculation that you are going to perform, that will be performed inside this hidden layer to find the hidden features and the patterns. So you have to discover some patterns. For an example, in a supermarket, you have to identify what item has been frequently purchased. It's a kind of a pattern. And another pattern, during which season? During which season? From the March to the May, or May to the June, or which period? There are too much of rain expected rather than the usual level. So there's those kind of stuff we can call it as a pattern. And as well as features, the hidden features. There's a possibility how we can tell the hidden feature. Yeah, okay. Think about, you are usually go to a supermarket. They keep record of each and every time that you are made up a purchase, and they can place one item next to other. So it's a kind of a complementary item. One item can be placed to another. It's a kind of an hidden feature that they have discovered. Usually during this time, you are coming, you are coming to the particular food city in Seldom more frequently, and they have noticed you are purchasing the items together. So, for example, how many of you heard about an example called beer and a diaper? Anyone now? Anyone? How many of you heard about the market basket analysis? How many of you heard about market basket analysis? Did you learn the data mining concepts or currently you are learning in this semester? Am I audible to everyone? Okay. I'm asking, did you learn the data mining concepts? Under the data mining concept, did you learn the market basket analysis? This semester. Okay. You will get to know about the market basket analysis, what type of complementary products that can be placed one after another. So there's a kind of an example called beer and a diaper. So you get, you get humor once I tell the scenario, but you can search it from the internet. So if you need more further references, let me know. There's a beer and a diaper. They have noticed from the Walmart supermarket that facilitated in located in America, the United States of America. They have noticed the beer and the diaper has been purchased together especially by the men, usually in the weekends. So what is the logic behind it? Think about it. Or otherwise you can go through the stuff. So those kind of hidden features that you can notice, what are the type of products that has been frequently purchased. So you can identify some hidden patterns and as well as the features. And the features means what kind of age segment that you are mainly focused on during this time, what kind of promotions that you can make. So likewise, they have there are several tactics available. And the output layer. Input goes through the series of transformation, which means the calculations can be performed inside this hidden layer using the hidden layer, which finally results in an output. That output can be a continuous value, which means the weather, the rainy levels, which mean that can be a continuous value, or otherwise the stock prediction US to Sri Lankan rupees market, and as well as there are some too much of fluctuation these days, and as well as you can go for an discrete value of the certain number of classes, which means the person can be stay in the organization or leave from the organization, or otherwise you can go for some emotion classification, which means happy, sad, fear, likewise. Otherwise, there are some, there are field prediction. There are, according to several fields, there are several scenarios available. So this will be the typical model of an artificial neural network. You have the inputs from X1 to Xn. That's up to you. If there are, as I mentioned earlier, if you are going to focus on telecommunication customer, whether he's going to stay in the organization or leave from the organization, you are going to decide on how many factors that you are going to grab from the organization. That's up to you. How many factors, how many inputs. And for each each feature, there's an associated weight associated with it. So then you are going to find the sigma, which means x1 into w1, x2 into w2, x3 into w3 associated with the weight and the input. And you are going to find the summation of those by using this y input. And with the help of the activation function, you are going to perform the output. So don't get confused with this activation function. Within a single class, we are going to discuss about this activation function in a separate. You do not need to worry about what is meant by this activation function. So this is a kind of another typical architecture that belongs to the artificial neural network. So this is a kind of an example. The customer age is a kind of an attribute. Customer debt ratio is a kind of an attribute, and attribute or feature. And monthly income also kind of an attribute. So here, for each and every attribute, there's an associated link with an node. So here x1 into w1, x2 into w3, and sometimes here x1 into w1 and x1 into w2 also can be possible. So here weights importance of these inputs, how much these inputs are important. Hope everyone get my point. So for the above general model of an artificial neural network, the input can be calculated as follows: x1 into w1, x2 into w2, x3 into w3, and as well as xm into w1. Until now, we have this as a y input, because in a node we can consider it as a soma cell, which means it's going to combine everything. So you are going to consider it as net input will be y in sigma I to the power m, so xi into wi. So likewise, the output can be calculated by applying the activation function. So how the output can be calculated? for that input totally calculated by finding the summation with the help of the input, by calculating the weight and stuff, by multiplying it one, you can identify by facilitating with an activation function. The sigmoid means there are certain ranges that you are going to perform. You are going to actually converting that one to trigger that one, whatever the input that you are going to get. So don't get confused with this activation function over the net input. So y if input output function will be re-implemented. So later on, you will decide on this one, how we can calculate this one. We will go for some calculations as well. Later on, we will go for that one as well. So up to this point, if anyone have any issues? Thank you. Give me 1 minute. Hope everyone got a clear point on how you can correlate a biological neural network with an artificial neural network. Anyhow, I have shared one. I have mentioned one reference link as well in the latter part of the slide. We will go through it and get to know about in detail what is the difference between the how you can correlate. How you can correlate the biological neural network with an artificial neural network. That's a kind of an important article. You can go through it. It's a kind of with the help of that one, you can grab more rather than this video and as well as the main stuff which I mentioned. With the help of that particular, I have mentioned that within the reference link, you can go through it and get to know about in detail, more detail. So up to this point, if anyone have any issues, shall I move to the next part, or anyone have any issues up to now?
No, sir.
No issues, no?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. So then we will go for the advantages of by using the neural network parallel processing capability, which means by comparing to the other machine learning algorithms and stuff, by using the neural network, you can get more precise results. Rather than using the standard state-of-art machine learning algorithms, and the fault tolerance. So how many of you heard about fault tolerance? What is meant by the fault tolerance? Yeah, fault tolerance means the detection of an error. For an example, how we can mention, fault tolerance means in case of an particular component, in case of think about a server system, there are two servers available. In case of one server is not working in the working capability, the another server will take down the work that can be carried out by the initial server and do the task. Likewise here, in case if you are identifying some patterns, if a particular node while you are making up the process with a single hidden layer and with by incorporating the several nodes, if it is error in making that prediction, the fault tolerant facility that available with a neural network can be easily facilitate that operation, easily tolerate that operation. That's known as fault tolerance. And another important thing, ANN have the ability to learn and model non-linear and complex relationship. Another important thing, it's difficult to identify the linear relationship. So you cannot go for a direct prediction. You cannot directly predict that one, directly focused on with an available data. So most of the data that available within the real life, many of the relationship between the inputs and the output are non-linear. For an example, you cannot, it's not feasible to identify the same pattern between you and your friend. Your friend will have the expenditure behavior as more rather than your case. You both are earning the same amount of money. For an example, 10,000 rupees per month, but your friend spend that 10,000 rupees within a week, but you can able to manage that with the same 10,000 rupees for a particular period of month, for a month. So there's no non-linear linear relationship has been identified. That one we call it as a non-linear relationship. Mainly for the non-linear relationship, by considering several factors to develop the prediction model or a clustering or time series model, we are using ANN because it will ideally identify this non-linear relationship in a perfect manner and the complex relationship. So don't get confused. We'll discuss that one later. ANN can generalize and helps in predict unseen data. So it has been not trained. We have to train our model to be get expected to an unseen data. But ANN can be generalized for that one with the help of the ANN. But there are some drawbacks as well by accommodating this ANN. Capability to work with incomplete knowledge. So you can simply develop an ANN by incorporating this input and the hidden and the output layer. So there are no restriction on input variables rather than other techniques. So there's no restriction. There are the standard state-of-art machine learning algorithms can be only work with the numeric data, but that's not the case for a neural network. There are several variants types of neural network available to accommodate different types of data, different data types. So that's too much important. So once we go for the disadvantages, there are too much of disadvantages also available with implementing the neural network. In case if you are going to go for the image processing stuff, you require then highly capability server. Otherwise, you won't be able to perform this one with Python by incorporating the OpenCV. That's a kind of a library, third-party library to work with the image stuff. But it's actually hardware dependent. That we are using the Google Collaboratory. So don't worry about that one as well. If you have time, I will discuss about that one as well. Rather than using our local PCs and the local laptops to develop this ANN models for the image processing and the text recognition, we are going to use the Google Collaboratory. It's a kind of a server that serves a cloud search server that's available to work with this image processing and stuff. Determination of proper network structure. If you do not define your structure properly, along with the input nodes and the output nodes properly, along with the number, how many number of hidden layers that has to be specified, and then it won't work. And duration of the development, it will consume some time. If it is a case for an image processing stuff, it will take some time. And unrecognized behavior of the network and the amount of data also, since too much important. That's why most of the time, most of the researchers and most of the research scholars and stuff, they are going for a standard algorithm rather than going with an ANN, because it's a kind of a drawback for the ANN. If you have the less amount of data, only 10 or 20 or hundreds amount of data, 100 rows of data, definitely it will give you the final prediction model with low accuracy, since the ANN can be facilitated and can be trained with a huge amount of data rather than the simple amount of data, rather than the small amount of data. That one also you have to remember. And another important thing, there's no specific rule for the structure of an ANN. There's no restriction to use only one hidden layer with an ANN. You can define the appropriate network structure. By your experience, you will easily identify how many hidden layers. Since the accuracy is too much low, I have to incorporate another hidden layer as well. So likewise, you can easily decide on that one. So ANN require the parallel processing power. We already discussed ANN can be, it's a kind of an advantage. Even though it will go for the parallel processing capability, you require some more hardware. So that's why it's a kind of a disadvantage. That's why we'll go for an online platform that facilitated with that accommodated or interconnected with the cloud to develop this ANN. Hope everyone get my point. And the artificial neural network on the applications, if you are considering the aerospace, we use ANN for the autopilot aircrafts, which means mainly you can go through the formation, the Tesla, they have used how they have incorporated the artificial intelligence within their products and stuff. Mainly they are using this ANN based applications for the voice recognition and for the image detection and stuff. Mainly they are using this ANN. And for the military purposes, we use the ANN weapon orientation and steering and the target tracking. So the exact point that you have to be target, or you have to be launched the missile and stuff, to location detection and stuff, the object detection and the stuff, and as well as the obstacle detection. In case of an there is an obstacle has been occurred during your pathway, you have noticed that one for mainly reason they can incorporate this ANN. And within the electronics, basically we use ANN neural network electronic in many ways. There are sequence prediction. So what is the next step that you're going to accommodate? And IC chipset layout and the chip failure analysis, they are using this one. And from the medical, they're using for the X-ray analysis, mainly for the image purposes, image processing purposes, they are using CNN, convolutional neural network, and EEG, ECG analysis, which means the CT scan and the X-ray scan, mainly MRI scan for mainly purposes, they are using this medical, they are incorporating this neural network. And for the speech, we use ANN speech recognition and speech classification. What kind of speech that can be, and that can be an hate speech or something like that, or whether it can be a good speech. Likewise, you can easily recognize by using by incorporating the RNN as well. And the telecommunication industry, can be used for the compression and for the image and the data compression and automated information services, which means the chatbots also can be falls under this telecommunication, and as well as the speech recognition also you can consider the chatbot. So this is the reference which I mentioned to discover the difference between an artificial neural network and biological neural network. You can go through this link. I think it's represented under the data camp. That's a kind of a website related to get to learn about this data science and stuff. You can go through this link and get a clear understanding about how you can deviate, how you can differentiate the biological neural network with an artificial neural network. So up to this point, if anyone have any issues. Anyone have any issues up to now?
So what is the difference between ANN and CNN?
So ANN is an actually simple ANN. Simple ANN is, we call it as a machine learning technique, and CNN falls under the deep learning technique. Actually, it's a deep neural network. We call it as deep neural network. At the later part, most probably the 12th or 13th class, I will explain what are the deep neural networks available. If we have time, we will go for the implementation as well. Did you get my point?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So the network that we already discussed, the recurrent neural network, convolutional neural network, the long short-term memory, that can be all kind of those networks can be falls under this deep neural network. So if we have time, we will discuss anyhow. I will discuss about the types as well in the later part of the classes. So other than that, thank you for asking the question. Other than that, if anyone have any questions. Anyone have any questions up to now? Okay. So that's what I have planned to discuss in today. As I have mentioned, I cover up all the things. We have discussed about what is meant by an artificial neural network and architecture of an artificial neural network and the consent process, which means the advantages and disadvantages of using an ANN. And as well as we have discussed about the application of an ANN. If you have time, we will go through some the real world application. If you have time, I will let you know in the next class get to know about the depth level of application that the ANN can be incorporated. So that's what I have planned to discuss in today. If you don't have any issues, we will wind up the session. If anyone have any issues up to now. And another important question that I have to ask from you. Do you want anything need to be any comments that you want me to incorporate, which means the speed is okay for you, or if it is too speed, which I am teaching. Any comments? I am really expecting your valuable comments. The speed is okay for you all, or do I need to reduce the speed? Can everyone hear me clearly? Yeah, okay. The speed is okay for you all, or do I need to reduce the speed, or any other comments that you want to incorporate within my lecture?
Can you reduce the speed?
Yeah, definitely. Sure. Thank you for the comment. Any other comments that you want to inculcate within my lecturing? feel free to incorporate. I'm not going to have any bias to something like that. So feel free to incorporate. So I'm also like you by studying from the CES department, and after that only I graduated and got this job. So I'm expecting your comment as a student. So you can feel free to provide your valuable comments. Only the speed is the problem, or any other problems? Okay, anyhow, so in the next classes, I'll provide one feedback form and get to know about that one as well. So we'll wind up from here, and we'll meet in the next week. Okay, thank you. Regarding to the artificial neural network, we'll meet in the next week. Those